Hi everyone! Today we're going to learn how to create custom user model. We're also going to implement registration, authentication, and login. So let's get started. So as you can see, I already created a Django project, which is student portal, and I also created an app called accounts. I already wired the URLs, and then I already made some views. These views are just very simple. It just renders the templates, which is here. We have the login template, the register, and the success. So let's see them. So this is our register template, login, and the success page. So if we register successfully, we're going to be redirected here, as well as if we logged in successfully. So as you notice, we don't have any fields here yet. We're going to deal with it later. So let's start. So in our registration, we want to have the field first name, last name, email, student ID, and the passwords. And for login, we're going to only need email and password. So in order for us to create custom user model, let's start with the models.py. We're going to need to create two classes. The first one is the custom user manager, and the second class that we're going to need to make is the custom user. Okay, so let's start with the custom user manager. But first, let's import the things that we're going to need here. So from django.contrib.auth.models, import abstract base user manager, and permissions mixed in. Going back here to our custom user manager, this will inherit base user manager. Okay. And inside custom user manager, we're going to create two methods. The two methods will be creating the standard user and creating super user manager. Creating super user. Okay. Sorry, I'm a bit off today, but let's go back. So let's first make the standard user. So def create user. Okay, it will accept parameters such as self, of course, because this is a class, then email, because we want the email to be our main login. Password, we'll set it to none, because in base user manager, password is also set to none, so this is for consistency. And then extra fields. Okay, inside our function, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check if the email is empty or invalid. If it is, we're going to raise a value error, and we're going to say something like you did not enter a valid email address. But if the email is not a problem, we're just gonna set the email to be equals to self that normalized email. We call the normalized email so that it will take the raw email and then converts it to proper email, if that makes sense. And then the user will be equals to self that model email is equal to email, and then the extra fields. And then we're going to set the password. Set password. We call the method or the function set password so that the password will be hashed in the background, so it won't just take the pure text password, but it will hash it in the background and it will enhance the security. Next is user.save using self dot underscore db. This is just going to save this user to our database. Then we're going to return user. So we're done with the standard create user. Now let's proceed to creating superuser. So that create underscore superuser. So this will going to take same parameters as the standard user. So let's just copy it here. And then for the extra fields, we're going to set default to is staff. Set this to true. Then let's just copy that. Then is superuser true. Since this is a superuser, it should be superuser and staff. And then we're just going to return self that an instance of this method. Then let's pass in email, password, and extra fields. So this just returned an instance of this method, but the difference is in the superuser, the extra fields is already manipulated or modified to stuff is true and superuser is true. Now we're done with our first class. Let's actually take care of our class custom user. Okay, in custom user, we're going to define the fields that we want our user to have. So going back here, we want our user to have first name, last name, email, student ID, and password. So let's start with the first name. First name will be models that char field max length, let's say 50. Let's just copy that for the last name. Next is email. Email is equal to models that email field. Let's set the default to true. The unique to true, so no one will have same email. Next is student ID. Let's just copy this. Student ID. Let's also set this to blank is equal to true. Okay. Next to student ID, password, but we don't actually need to explicitly specify password because password is already taken care of the abstract base user. Speaking of, we forgot to inherit abstract base user and permissions mixing. Sorry about that. Okay, so aside from these 4 fields, I also want to add is active. It's equal to models that boolean field, and the default will be true. And then next is staff. Default will be false. After specifying the fields, we're going to get an instance of this custom user manager and then set it to the objects of the custom user. And since we want our email to be the main form of login, we need to specify username field. This is going to be the email. We also need to enter required fields, and let's just set it to empty list. Last, we're just going to create string representation. Let's just return self.email. So now we're done with the models.py. Next, let's go to forms.py. So let's create forms.py. Okay, so let's import from Django, import forms. Put forms, and then from that models, import custom user. Okay, so for our registration, we're going to create a class of custom user creation form, and we're going to use that for registration. So class custom user creation form. This will inherit. Well, let's first import it from Django .contrib .auth .forms import user creation form, and this class will inherit from that. Why is it highlighting? Okay, now that's cool. Okay, here inside our custom creation form, we need to define our meta. Model will be our custom user, and the fields will be this. Okay, first name, last name, email, student ID, password 1, password 2. This is okay, but I want to specify the widgets of each of this field and also stylize the field using Tailwind CSS. So let's start first with the first name. By the way, you can fast forward this session because this is just going to be a repetitive steps. You can fast forward or skip. So first name will be forms.charfield, and then the widget will be forms.textinput. Attributes will be I want to have a placeholder. Let's call this first name, and then class. I already prepared the class here. Again, this is Tailwind class. So next, let's copy this, make this our last name, and then for our email is equal to forms.email field. Widget is forms.email input. Then for attributes, let's just copy this, change the placeholder to email, and then the class, let's make this 400 pixels. Okay, next is student ID. Student ID is equal to forms that it's actually, let's just copy this. Okay, and change the placeholder to student ID, then the width to 400 pixels. Next, password 1 is equal to forms.charfield, because there's no password field in forms, so let's just make it char field, but the widget is forms dot password input. Okay, then attributes, let's copy this, enter password, and let's copy this. This will be for password 2, then confirm password. So I think we're done with the custom user creation form, and let's take care of the registration first, and let's go back here for the login later. So let's go now to our reviews and import what we just created. So from that forms, import custom user creation form, and then let's edit our register view. So if request that method is equal to post, okay, we're going to create an instance of this custom user creation form, and then let's pass in request that post. Now if form dot is valid, going to user is equal to form dot save, and then we're also gonna log in the user, request user. Let's import login from Django that contrib that auth import login. So this is when the method is post, but if it is not post, we're going to just get an empty instance of this custom creation form. And then in our render, we're going to pass in our context dictionary form. Okay, so if we look at our register.html, I already passed in the form first name, the last name, email, and the rest of the fields, and also the errors in them. So if we hit save, let's open our terminal, and we have some issues here. Accounts user.groups. Oh, because we forgot to tell Django that we should use our custom user model. So let's go to our settings.py, and at the end of the file, let's just enter this auth user model is equal to accounts that custom user. So custom user is the custom user we made in the models.py inside accounts. So let's save this. Let's stop the server and make some migrations. Manage the py, make migrations, and then migrate. Okay, cool. Now run server. Okay. Now if you refresh the register, we should see our fields, and there we go. First name, last name, email, and student ID, and the password. Now let's try to log in. Let's try Kirigaya. I don't know if you're watching some anime. So email, let's try kirito@gmail.com. Actually, let's try to enter wrong things and see if it's gonna check. For student ID, let's enter 1 for password. Let's enter dog. For confirm, let's enter cat. So we entered um, wrong wrong stuff in the fields, so that we can check it. It's gonna check it. And enter valid address. That's cool. So let's enter valid address now. Two password fields did not match, so let's correct that. Let's enter dog and then dog here. So it should still have an error. Password is too short and it must contain at least 8 characters. Very good. Now let's enter a proper password. Excuse me. So now when I hit register, I expect this to redirect to our success page, hopefully. And it did not. It did not. Why is that? Let's go to our terminal. Let's go back to our views. Okay, we forgot to return it. What a dummy. I'm sorry. Redirect to success. Of course, we need to import this. Sorry about that. So let's register another one. It's Asuna Yuki Asuna at gmail.com. Student 2 password. Now if I hit register, hopefully it will redirect us to the success page. And it did. Okay, so registration is okay now. Now let's go back to our terminal, stop our server. Let's try to create Superuser. Create Superuser. So when I enter this, I expect it to ask me for an email and then password, because we change our username to the email. So enter, and it asked for our email, so that's good. Okay, cool. Now if we go to our login, because we haven't activated it yet, I think, right? Oh. Dummy. Of course. So you are authenticated as asun@gmail.com but are not authorized to access page. Okay, this is good because when we registered Asuna, and the registration was successful, it also logged us in. But now we want to log in as the super user that we just created in the terminal. Okay, and now we don't see the users. Let's go to the admin.py, models, import, custom user, admin, that site, that register, custom user, and we should see the users in our login now. If you refresh this, there you go, custom users. And yes, we have this RM Largadas, which is our super user. Yes, staff is active, super user status, yes, and Asuna and Kirito. So if we open this, this is not a super user, and this is not a staff, which is cool. Okay, now let's take care of our login. So let's go back to our forms.py. So if we created custom user creation form for our registration, we're going to create another class for our login, which is custom authentication form. And then this will inherit from, let's import this authentication form. Copy, paste it here. So just like custom user creation form, here we're also gonna need to specify the fields that we want to appear in our login form. And that is, if we go back here, we only want email and a password. Okay. So let's copy this email. So copy this password, but let's just make it password. So save that. Let's go back to our views, and then let's import custom authentication form, and then let's start editing this login view. So if request that method is equal to post, then form is an instance of that. So the first parameter is request. Second parameters are args, or request that post. So if form is valid, let's get the email form that cleaned data email. This is just getting the cleaned email out of the form. So this means no white spaces or no whatnot. It's just the clean data. So let's do the same for the password. And then user will be, let's authenticate the user. So here let's also import authenticate and logout. Okay. Authenticate. What do we need? We need the request and the user. And then let's check if the user is none or not. If user is not none, then we're going to log in the user. Log in, request user, and then return redirect to success page. Okay, so again, okay, we're missing something here. Okay, so what we're missing is actually this is wrong. So we see here the first argument is request, and then the second is credentials, which is email is equal to email, and password is equal to password. And then if user is not none, we're going to log in the user, and then redirect to the success page. So all of this is if the request method is post, but if it is not, we're just going to create an empty instance of custom authentication form. And then in this render, we're going to pass in context dictionary form. And if we look at the login template, we already have the form.username, that password. So if we save, let's just stop the server and restart it. Okay, so if we go here to log in and hit refresh, it did, I mean, we can see our fields here, but it doesn't look right. So let's check what's happening here. We have the email. What if we change this to username? Actually, I think we need to change that to username. So we There you go. So the reason why that's need to be username, because in Django the default uh, Django uses username as the default in logging in, but now we also need to call it username, but we will assign an email field and an email input. I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry if I sound confusing because English is not my first language, but I will try my best. Okay, so okay, now it's rendering properly. Let's actually try. So we go here. We have the Asuna Kirito. Let's try the Kirito credential. Let's first log out here. So we are logged out. Okay, and then let's try to log in kirito@gmail.com. So when I hit enter, I'm expecting to be redirected to the success page, and then we will actually be logged in. Cool. And now if we refresh this, we are now logged in as Kirito. You are authenticated as kirito@gmail.com. So registration check, success login check. Let's implement this logout. Let's go back to our views, and here we already imported the logout. So let's edit this. Logout is the simplest view we're going to make today. This is just simply log out and then request, then return, redirect to register. We hit save. Let's go back here to log in, add to success, refresh. If we hit log out, it should redirect us to our register. Cool. And if we refresh this, we are actually logged out. So that's it for today. I hope you learned something, and if you don't get it the first time, maybe watch it the second time, because that's how I learned Django. I watch it over and over again. Probably not the same tutorial, but I repetition is the key for you to learn something, at least for me. So yeah, I hope you learned something today, and thank you, and see you on my next tutorial.